The following episode is brought to you by FFBCast. Stay tuned for your very own custom podcast, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
You are listening to the Old Man Dynasty Year 2 podcast, brought to you by FFBcast. I am your host, Joseph Hoppy, and today we are recording the draft recap episode where we will be breaking down your league's rookie draft, discussing recent transactions, including some draft pick trades, providing complete team overviews with each team's strengths and weaknesses. Then we'll wrap it up by making predictions of which teams we think are built to contend for a title. Stay tuned. All right, let's dive right in. First, by looking at the recent transactions involving some draft pick trades. Let's date back all the way to May 21st, where Joe Murph and Yoda are involved in a trade. Joe Murph giving up the 110 and 203 and receiving from Yoda the 106 and 207, so an exchange of 4 spots. In my opinion, Joe Murph comes out on top in this trade, moving up 4 spots, which in a rookie draft, the first round is mainly where it is at. That's where the bread and butter is made there. So Joe Murph coming out ahead in this one. And the following trade, the next day, May 22nd, Joe Murph gets in a trade with Brandon. Joe Murph giving up the 106 that he currently traded for and a 312. Brandon gives up Dallas Goedert and the 108 and a 409. So Joe Murph receiving Dallas Goedert in this trade to move back 2 spots and giving up a third to receive a fourth. It's depending on your team, which we'll get into later on as we do the team overviews. I don't think it's a bad trade. I think Dallas Goedert has shown some promise in Philadelphia, and especially in a dynasty league. I think that is a good move for Joe Murph there. Now, looking ahead, we see a team trade between Flatch and Yoda. Flatch giving up the 206 and Yoda giving up the 110. For face value, I have no clue what happened here, why you would give up a 110 for a 206 straight up. There must be something else going on in the works, but that's as far as I can delve into it. Let's move ahead here with Joe Murph and Yoda also getting into another trade here. Joe Murph giving up Calvin Ridley, who I am a fan of in Dynasty. I definitely think he has some great promising years ahead of him. Yoda giving up Sammy Watkins and the 203. I think this is a fair trade overall, but I do favor Yoda's side of this one, receiving Calvin Ridley in this Dynasty format. I think that was a great move for Yoda. And we'll look at one more trade here where we have Deuce and Joe Murph. Murph giving up Kirk Cousins that is, and the 207. Deuce giving up the 204, so an exchange of a quarterback and a second-round pick to move up 3 spots. A fair exchange depending on the makeup of their teams. As we transition here to the meat of the podcast, we're going to break down this rookie draft, and I will be comparing the draft picks to the ADP, the average draft position provided by Fantasy Football Calculator. I know that's not everybody's typical platform on where they draft, but just for this purpose, we are going to use their ADP for rookie drafts. And at 101, we have Josh Jacobs going off of the board to Kevin. Josh Jacobs, what's seeming to be a workhorse running back, especially with Isaiah Crowell taking an injury there. Kevin certainly didn't need the support at the running back position. He bolsters quite the triad of Melvin Gordon, David Johnson, and Josh Jacobs. I think still that's a good pick. You can't really go anywhere else. Add to the fact that he has Kerryon Johnson as well. This team is loaded at the running back position. For the second pick, 102, we have Chris drafting David Montgomery. This one is probably more common than it was in the past. David Montgomery has shot up the draft ranks just recently. Fantasy Football Calculator has David Montgomery at number 4 overall. And if you'd like, I can break down the top 4. Surprisingly, Fantasy Football Calculator 101 is N'Keal Harry. Then we have Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, followed by David Montgomery. I don't think David Montgomery is a bad pick there. I do think that N'Keal Harry first overall is not the proper decision, and you guys do have him in your top 4 as far as this league goes. I'm not opposed to that due to the shelf life of the wide receiver position in a Dynasty league. But going number 1 overall kind of seems bananas to me. But I think you guys have him properly priced, because at number 3 we have BMFG drafting Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders definitely gaining some hype. And we all know that Jordan Howard can't catch passes no matter how hard they try. So Miles Sanders should have a prominent role in that Eagles backfield, especially behind quite the decent offensive line. This seems to be a decent pick here. At number 4, 104 overall, we have N'Keal Harry going off the board to Brandon's team. Brandon's team and N'Keal Harry are a match made in heaven there. Brandon's team needing some good wide receivers, so we'll see how N'Keal Harry turns out in this Patriots offense. He's got quite a lot of wide receivers, but none that I see potentially being a number 1. You have Stephon Diggs, maybe his best, who could finish top 12, maybe best case scenario. But I think this is a good fit for Brandon's team for multiple reasons. And then we'll also get to his pick at number 106, skipping by the 105 for now, where he takes Paris Campbell. So this team is definitely set up for success at the wide receiver position in the future. I think they might struggle a little bit this year. You're going to have a hard time finding who to start on a week-to-week basis, but you have definitely something to look forward to in this group as a whole. Going back to the 105 position, we have Wibble drafting DK Metcalf, another wide receiver here. 3 wide receivers going at 104, 105, and 106. DK Metcalf definitely gaining some hype. Working with Russell Wilson showering praise. Sunshine Pete Carroll also showering praise on DK Metcalf, saying that he can do it all. But as we know, combine metrics don't lie. This man has a problem-changing direction. I saw a clip of him on Twitter actually running a comeback route, and I shit you not, he probably took 7 steps just to come back to the ball. I definitely think he's a 9 route. He is a quick slant type of receiver, which may even be a difficult route for him to run as well. Any change of direction is what I'm trying to say. But with what Seattle wants to do in the run game, I definitely think that DK Metcalf can provide a better football asset to them as compared to a dynasty asset on someone's team. I think he'll be a great blocker. We've all seen the photos with the shirt off. So DK Metcalf, probably a better football player than dynasty, at least for this year. We'll see how he develops as a wide receiver. Moving on to 107, we have Mecole Hardman, another wide receiver off the board. Mecole Hardman maybe was a little bit too hyped before the Tyreek Hill news that the DA closed the case. Mecole Hardman may be more of a development type of player. We'll see how Andy Reid decides to use him this year. There's also Demarcus Robinson ahead of him, who I think may get a little bit more work than Mecole Hardman, being already familiar with that system. But he definitely has potential, especially in those games in which Tyreek Hill is predicted to be suspended. Now, we know the case is closed on Tyreek Hill, and he will not be suspended indefinitely due to domestic violence or child abuse, which he has a history of, but instead the NFL personal conduct policy is going to take effect, and I'm expecting a 4 to 6 game suspension for Tyreek Hill. Let's move on to the 109, where the 108, where Joe Murph selects Darrell Henderson. This is a great pick for Joe Murph's team. He does have Todd Gurley, so handcuffing Todd Gurley, the arthritis-prone, knee questionable Todd Gurley, shaky knee Todd Gurley. He handcuffs him with Darrell Henderson there, and I think that is a wise decision. Darrell Henderson is, if you look at some metrics online about this guy, they say that he is the most explosive. McVay called him the most dangerous running back, or the most dangerous player, period, in that draft. So I definitely think he's going to see work there. It was a smart decision by Murph to lock up that handcuff, and maybe not even a handcuff, maybe more of a committee type of back in a high-powered offense. He is going to sit well in that running back group with Gurley, Joe Mixon, and Damian Williams. So congratulations to Joe Murph on probably having the best running back set in the entire league. Now, this next pick happens to be one of my favorite late round flyers in best ball drafts. We have Deebo Samuel, taken at 109 overall by Anthony. Deebo Samuel is going at the 205 for his ADP at Fantasy Football Calculator. Maybe could have waited here, maybe traded back a few spots. I do see that Anthony has a 205 regardless, but sometimes you got to take the guys that you want, and if you don't believe that he's going to be there, go ahead and lock him up. I like Deebo Samuel as well. I think his physique and the type of wide receiver that he is something that the 49ers don't currently have with Dante Pettis and Marquise Goodwin. They also took Jalen Hurd. They're missing that dominant physical type of receiver, and I think he could fit well in this Kyle Shanahan offense. We know that this is a promising offense and a lucrative one, so good luck with you and Deebo Samuel. At the 110, we have Kyler Murray going off the board, which is exactly where Fantasy Football Calculator has his ADP. Kyler Murray, the hype train just keeps getting more and more steam. This man is supposed to set the league on fire here with that air raid fusion of Chip Kelly offense. We'll see exactly how that plays out in Arizona, but I'm definitely not shying away from Kyler Murray. And at 111, we have Hakeem Butler. Hakeem Butler falling in the NFL draft so far. A lot of people predicted that he was going to be the best wide receiver coming out of this draft room. Who knows? Still may be true, but NFL teams apparently don't seem to think so. And for the last pick in the first round at 112, we have Noah Fant coming off the board, our first tight end, surprisingly, because Noah Fant's ADP is 111 in Fantasy Football Calculator, but TJ Hockenson is way up there at 107. Usually the fifth pick off of the board, according to Fantasy Football Calculator. Way too rich for my blood, apparently too rich for your guys' blood as well, so congratulations on holding steady at the tight end position with Fant and Hockenson going at the 112 and 201. So Hockenson goes right after Fant, which I agree. I think Hockenson is going to be more of a blocker. I think Fant can definitely provide more fantasy value this season, especially playing with Flacco and Flacco favoring the tight end position. I do think that this is a proper order for them to be drafted in. So J-Mon taking Fant again at 112, and 201 Brandon takes TJ Hockenson. At 202 we have Phil drafting, and Phil taking his first player here, A.J. Brown from the Tennessee Titans. A.J. Brown, definitely a talented wide receiver, but Tennessee is where wide receivers go to die, i.e. Corey Davis. It's just, is it Mariota? Is it the system? Who knows? But I think that's a proper value for him to go in the second round. as opposed to the first round, where his ADP has him at 107 on Fantasy Football Calculator. So that's, I would say, a bargain pick there. Let's see how he comes along. And honestly, let's see if Mariota can stay healthy for a season. I'm not sure that A.J. Brown can provide much value otherwise, although they do have a decent backup this year in Ryan Tannehill. At the 203, Joe Murph is on the board again, taking J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Arcega-Whiteside definitely gaining some hype as well in these mini camps with his red zone ability. So we could see a lot of playing time for Arcega-Whiteside in those types of packages. Let's see if he's a touchdown-dependent wide receiver this first year, but he's definitely what Alshon Jeffrey brings to the table is sort of the same as what Arcega-Whiteside is going to bring to the table. So there's a little bit of overlap there. We'll see how much playing time he actually gets. I think he's more of a future player, but Alshon Jeffrey being locked up for 3 years definitely doesn't give you much hope for him to kind of dominate that physical wide receiver type of role. Let's move on here to the 204, where Joe Murph again is on the board, taking Andy Isabella. Definitely think that Andy Isabella has some potential in the future there with a depleted wide receiver core in Arizona, bolstering only Kirk and Fitzgerald as guys who would get in the way of Andy Isabella seeing the field as an every down type of wide receiver. Anthony is up next. He takes Devin Singletary at the 205. As we discussed before, Anthony had the chance to take Deebo Samuel at 109. He did. Deebo Samuel's average draft position is 205, but he was able to snag him a little bit earlier here and then take Devin Singletary in that crowded Buffalo backfield at the 205 spot. So we'll see what Devin Singletary can bring to the table. It's more of a future pick. I know Frank Gore and LaShawn McCoy are getting to be on their last leg. So Devin Singletary seemingly to be the man taking over the job in the future. At 206, Yoda takes Marquise Brown, the first receiver selected in the NFL draft. Marquise Brown was acquired by his pick, traded from Flatch. Deuce, following at the 207, takes Deontay Johnson. Pittsburgh definitely has the repertoire for drafting good wide receivers. We'll see how that one shakes out. It's a crowded backfield there. Dante Moncrief joining them, James Washington coming along, and Juju Smith-Schuster, obviously their number one. But with Antonio Brown leaving, I still don't think that there's going to be a 1A, 1B type of situation as we saw last year with Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster. I might be wrong. Maybe Moncrief takes that role. Maybe James Washington steps up, or Deontay Johnson is a superstar in the waiting. But I guess it's a wait-and-see type of situation. Alexander Matterson is next off of the board, Minnesota running back at 208 to Jamon's team. I'm not sure he's going to see the field very much either. I think Dalvin Cook is a great dynasty asset to have. I think having the running back behind him is not such a bad idea, according to his injury history. But I'm not sure he's going to provide much standalone value. At 209, we have Justice Hill, the man running the fastest time at the Combine this year of all the running backs. I actually was at Indianapolis and got to see him, and I'm pretty sure due to the nature of everyone else being extremely slow, when Justice Hill ran that 4.4, there was a lot of gasps and a lot of wows going on, even though it not being that impressive. But Justice Hill definitely in the waiting behind Mark Ingram. Maybe he sees a little bit of the field this year. I don't think they signed Mark Ingram to be in a 50-50 type of split committee. But we'll see. We'll see how that one plays out. Justice Hill showing some speed and some physique, some physicality there at the running back position. Definitely somebody I'd like to have. If Mark Ingram gets hurt, I definitely think he'll be waiver wire number 1 in redraft leagues where he's not owned. But moving on here to the 210, we have our second quarterback coming off the board in Dwayne Haskins. I actually think Haskins is going to see the field sooner rather than later. He's splitting reps, first team reps in camp already, 50-50 with Case Keenum, which is a good sign for him that he may be getting that job from week 1. Case Keenum certainly is not going to wow anybody, and the promise that a Dwayne Haskins type of rookie quarterback might show may be enough for them to say, what the heck, let's get him on the field and learn as he goes along. So the 211 goes Kelvin Harmon here to Chris. Kelvin Harmon was hyped by a lot of draft Twitter analytic people. Kelvin Harmon definitely seems to have all the tools to be a complete wide receiver, but I mean, if he's catching passes from, who knows, if it's from Case Keenum, I'm not very excited about having Kelvin Harmon. There's not too many people in his way to seeing the field, I guess, is one pro for him, but there's not many others, let's just put it that way. At the 212, Kevin takes Terry McLaurin, another Washington receiver. Like I said, these guys have the ability to get on the field due to the lack of depth at that position for Washington. So we'll see what they can do in training camp. Actually, that's something that I'm going to be paying attention to a lot, because behind Jordan Reed, who do they have? Josh Doxson? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that plays out. But the next pick in the third round, the first pick, 301, Kevin gets to go again and takes Benny Snell. Benny Snell has been blurbed about splitting a committee between him, James Conner, and Jalen Samuels. Benny Snell also gaining a lot of praise from Mike Tomlin. So they really like him there. A lot of people didn't think he could be a good running back at the NFL level, just kind of due to his speed. But we'll see how that plays out. You don't always necessarily have to be fast to be good in the NFL. If he can break tackles and keep the ball secure, I think he can definitely find a role on that Pittsburgh offense. At 302, Chris is taking Raekwon Armstead, Jacksonville running back, viewed almost a little bit as the upcoming pass catcher, I should say. Leonard Fournette, not known for his pass catching ability. Raekwon Armstead, a little bit better than Fournette in that department, so we'll see how that shakes out. Although they do want Fournette to be a bell cow, as long as he can stop being a knucklehead and stay on the field and do all the right things. I do think he will. I think he could be a steal in drafts. But in a situation where something does happen, he gets injured again, as he has proven to, I think Raekwon Armstead can provide some value for you there. At 303, we have Jalen Hurd, San Francisco wide receiver. Definitely hearing good things about this guy as well. Him and Deebo Samuel are joining that thin group of wide receivers there. I definitely think there's some value to be had in drafting either of these guys. So I think that's a good pick there at 303. At 304, Brandon takes Darwin Thompson. I love this pick. I also love the pick behind this. I think that these guys are undervalued. The potential for them to be breakout running backs, taking over that job, I think is amazing. So definitely pay attention to these guys. Darwin Thompson at 304 to Brandon, and then as well Damian Harris. I think Damian Harris is gaining a lot of steam here for the hype train. The more Sony Michel kind of sits out, with injuries, and not too many teams believe that Sony Michel could have a long shelf life in the NFL due to his knee injury concerns coming into the draft. The Patriots took him in the first round, as we all know, but it seems like those injuries in his past is catching up with him. Damian Harris could provide some great value here. Love the 2 picks. These have to be the steals, in my opinion, of this rookie draft. At 306, Yoda takes Irv Smith Jr., Minnesota tight end. We know Kyle Rudolph just received that 4-year extension, so we'll see what Irv Smith's role is. I do think that he is a well-rounded tight end. I think that his blocking is just as good as his receiving, which is not saying that he can't be a great pass catcher. I'm just saying that I think his blocking ability was underrated coming into the NFL. As a Packers fan, I definitely wanted them to get Irv Smith. I was hoping that they would get him late. Instead, they got Jay Sternberger, and we'll get to him. But at 307 here, we have Kyle Warring, the Houston tight end, also figuring to take over that job. He may just very well be the best tight end that they have on that roster, so that could be a great value pick there as well. 308, we have Joe Murph taking Miles Boykin. Definitely could see the field a lot this year in a depleted wide receiver group in Baltimore, although I'm not sure how much any one of those wide receivers will be worth. Marquise Brown ahead of him, obviously. Willie Snead's still there. But as much as Lamar Jackson runs the ball, we'll see if any of those guys can even come close to wide receiver 2 when it's all said and done. At 309, we have Drew Lock going off of the board to Yoda. We'll try to speed things along here. 310, Tony Pollard, Dallas running back. And 311, we have Bruce Anderson, Tampa Bay running back. That is definitely a backfield to pay attention to. Nobody knows who the starter is going to be. Is it going to be Peyton Barber? Is it going to be Ronald Jones? A high draft pick that they took last year. We'll see. And then we have Zay Jones coming off of the board. So mixing in some free agents here. Brandon takes Zay Jones at 312. Jay Sternberger going at 401 to Joe Murph. Jay Sternberger, I believe, can be the guy, not this year, but next year once Jimmy Graham is gone. At 402, we have Austin Hooper going off of the board. And then we have a couple picks that were skipped, 403 and 404. Then 405, Phil takes Dante Moncrief. 406 skipped as well. And then Derek Carr, the last pick, at 407. So that wraps it up. Congratulations to all of you guys who made those great value picks, especially Damian Harrison and Darwin Thompson. Those were my favorite picks overall. But this is a great rookie draft. I think you guys all have a good head on and understand where these guys should be drafted. Nobody was outrageously above or beyond their ADP. So congratulations to all of you, and this seems definitely like a good league to be a part of.
You're listening to an FFBcast podcast. For more custom content, visit us online at ffbcast.com.
Let's do some quick team overviews here. We are looking at Phil's team. Maybe his weakest position would be the quarterback position, where he has Mitchell Trubisky and Jameis Winston. I actually think Jameis Winston won't be too bad this year, but he has a well-rounded team, and that is the only weakness that I could pick out. Now, I think his strength is the wide receiver position with Hopkins, Marvin Jones, Robert Woods, and Geronimo Allison. Also with some other guys in the waiting, A.J. Brown, Dante Moncrief, and definitely in the waiting is Josh Gordon. We'll see if he comes back. Joe Murph's team is next. My favorite team overall, bolstering a great running back core with Todd Gurley and Darrell Henderson, and then Joe Mixon and Damian Williams. He also has Kalen Ballage and Duke Johnson. Patrick Mahomes atop his quarterback list, number one quarterback pretty much overall. He also has great wide receivers in Devontae Adams, Chris Godwin, T.Y. Hilton, and Sammy Watkins, who I think can step in while Tyreek Hill is gone and provide you with wide receiver 2 production. I'd say If I had to pick a weakness at this team, it would be the tight end position, but with Trey Burton, Mike Gesicki, Dallas Goedert, and Sternberger, you can't really say that that's a weakness. Moving on here to Kevin's team, and notably is Aaron Rodgers at the quarterback position, followed by Sam Darnold. I think he also has great running backs with Melvin Gordon, Josh Jacobs, David Johnson, and Kerryon Johnson. Definitely fighting for the second best group of running backs in this entire league. His wide receivers, though, are many, but maybe his best is Adam Thielen. Hopefully, you can get some good production out of Devin Funchess or Alshon Jeffrey. Otherwise, we're looking at a lot of wide receiver threes here. Maybe Robbie Anderson can step up and provide low-end or high-end running back 2 or wide receiver 2 numbers as he has in the past. We'll see. But then we have Chris's team here, who may be just the most average team in this entire league. Matthew Stafford and Carson Wentz at the quarterback position, and for running backs, he has Le'Veon Bell, Mark Ingram, and Marlon Mack. Also adding David Montgomery in the draft. Julio Jones, Jarvis Landry, Mike Williams, and DJ Moore are some notable wide receivers that he has. So I think a very average group overall. It could definitely get you to the playoffs there if a lot of things go right for people and you can avoid some injuries. BMFG has Deshaun Watson, who I definitely think can be the number 1 or 2 quarterback when it's all said and done this year. A weak running back group, Sony Michel, probably his best bet. A lot of backups in Devontae Booker, Chase Edmonds, Theo Riddick. Hopefully Miles Sanders can do what he needs to and take over that Philly backfield in order to provide you some running back 2 value there. But otherwise, you're going to have to wait until after Week 8 for Kareem Hunt to come back. He does have Cooper Kupp, Kenny Golladay, and Keenan Allen at the wide receiver position, so that may be his strongest position there, and Vance McDonald, who I think can definitely take over some of those targets that Antonio Brown left when he vacated that group there in Pittsburgh. Brandon's team has Ezekiel Elliott and Devonta Freeman, so his running back group is probably the best. He also did take Darwin Thompson, which I was a fan of. We'll see if he can get some touches there. If he can get anywhere from 9 to 12 touches in that Kansas City backfield, I definitely think he'll provide you with value, and you could plug him in during bye weeks. Now, a lot of wide receivers here in Paris Campbell, Stephon Diggs, Deshaun Hamilton, and N'Keal Harry, Christian Kirk, but none that are going to stand out to me as a true wide receiver 1. He's got great tight ends with Hawkinson and O.J. Howard, though. J-Mon's team up next. Quite a few questions or concerns here. Maybe his best position is a running back or quarterback position, where he has Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, and Dak Prescott. Mason Rudolph as well in the waiting there. Not sure Mason Rudolph is going to be a thing ever, but we'll see. And let's just go ahead and go to Yoda's team here, where he has Mike Evans, AJ Green, Tyler Lockett, and Calvin Ridley, but most notably Travis Kelce. So definitely going to need some help at the running back position. Hopefully Nick Chubb is the man that I think he can be, and Derrick Henry gets the work that he deserves there. Flatch's team bolsters a decent running back group as well, with Tariq Cohen, Kenyon Drake, Alvin Kamara, my number 1 overall pick in all formats, and Phillip Lindsay, who definitely showed that he can be the guy last year in Denver. Anthony's team has Saquon Barkley, Tevin Coleman, Darius Geis, and Aaron Jones. He handcuffs Aaron Jones with Jamal Williams, but I was surprised to see that Dexter Williams, the other running back who was selected by the Packers in this year's draft, was not taken in the rookie draft. Maybe you should consider that there. I think Dexter Williams actually has a better long-term chance at securing some touches in that backfield than does Jamal Williams. He's going to need some help at the wide receiver position. Not really toting a great overall group there. Juju Smith-Schuster, Allen Robinson, and Deshaun Jackson. Hopefully Deebo Samuel will become something. I'm not a believer in Sterling Shepard, but some people say, hey, he's going to get the targets. Somebody has to. Deuce here has a weak running back group with Howard, Ronald Jones, Rashad Penny, Ito Smith, and Peyton Barber. Good luck there with that group. Hopefully one of these guys emerges. I've actually been drafting Rashad Penny a lot myself. I think he can take over that backfield, or at least will be the guy who gets the most valuable looks and touches, which, of course, I'm talking about targets. We all know targets are worth more than carries in the NFL. He has Odell Beckham, Tyreek Hill, and Anthony Miller, and then Eric Ebron and Evan Ingram. So the wide receiver and tight end group looking pretty nice there. Last, we'll look over Wibble's team, who has Andrew Luck and Tom Brady. Definitely a great quarterback group. Andrew Luck, one of the better Dynasty quarterbacks, more promising, and hopefully has the longevity. Hopefully the injuries do not catch up with him. But very concerning is his running back group with James Conner, LaShawn McCoy, and James White. He also added Bruce Anderson. Good luck there with that group. Hopefully your guys in Antonio Brown, Amari Cooper, and Julian Edelman can keep the boat afloat, I shall say. Curtis Samuel and Marquez Valdes-Scantling also in that group. A huge wide receiver group there. Maybe you're looking to make some trades. And Zach Ertz and Austin Hooper at the tight end position. So that wraps up our overall team summary. What we're going to do next is take a look and see which teams we think are built to contend for a title. All right, and we're back. I've come up with 4 teams here that I think can definitely contend and make it to the championship, or at least the semifinals. First of all, we have Joe Murph. A very active owner. I definitely think he has the well-rounded team, the best team altogether, and he can definitely push for that championship. He is the heavy favorite in my eyes. Phil's team also seems pretty well-rounded. Their running back group, Dalvin Cook and Fournette, is pretty decent. When you throw Jameis Winston in there, in my opinion of Jameis Winston, and then Hopkins and Marvin Jones and Robert Woods with Geronimo Allison's promise, maybe in that Greenville backfield. I think this can be a team that kind of fights through the season and ends up with a better record than people expect. Kevin has Aaron Rodgers and a great group of running backs. He is going to be fighting at the wide receiver position on who to basically start on a week-by-week basis. But if he can figure that out and get it right, I definitely think that this team has a chance to contend. And Brandon's team, last but definitely not least, you're definitely not least when you have Ezekiel Elliott and Devonta Freeman at the running back position. But I truly believe that Darwin Thompson is going to be somebody that can fill in bye weeks. A lot of good wide receivers here, maybe the same problem as the last team, figuring out who to start on a week-by-week basis. Obviously, Diggs is in there, but a lot of boom-bust type of guys like Deshaun Hamilton and Antonio Callaway and Christian Kirk. If you can get them on the right week, then I definitely feel like you'll be putting up a lot more W's than you may expect. I know everybody has championship aspirations, but only one will be crowned. So good luck to you guys. Good luck to every single team, and those of you who are not as active, maybe you could take a tip or two from Joe Murph. Joe Murph, get at him.
That concludes this episode. Follow us on Twitter at FFBcast and email your questions to ffbcast@gmail.com. See you next time for more fantasy greatness.